Hello everybody, this is Daryl at Hudson'sCustomMachining.com. I've got on my workbench here today a 1908 General Electric. We call this a big motor yoke because the motor mounts to a yoke and it's able to swivel up and down. This was the first year, it was a transitional year for GE in that they had been making a single bearing design motor, what collectors have coined the term pancake fan because they're real large diameter and flat. They called it a pancake fan, had a single bearing design. This is a newly designed motor, came out in 1908. It's got a rear bearing and a front bearing like most of your typical motors of today. And this is one that's in need to have a bearing replacement done on it. And I've got it wired up here just temporarily. I'm going to plug in power to it now. And you hear that noise in there. Take the power off and the noise goes away. This is bad bearings in this motor, so I'm going to make new bearings, put new bearings in there. And just a little history for those of you that may not know about the 1908 motor. This was a transitional year, like I said, was the first year that they came out with the front and rear bearing design. But there's also other telltale signs of this being a 1908. This motor had a internal centrifugal start switch in it. And they only had this in 1908, and I think maybe some of the very, very early 1909 models, but shortly after 1909 they started transitioning away from the internal centrifugal start switches, and the later 1909 models and on through did not have an internal centrifugal start switch in them. Also, these motors here, a rough idea about serial number, if you look at the serial number on it, it should be somewhere between about 314,000 to about 334,000 roughly. Should fall within that 1908 period. And just another little thing, we'll walk back here to the back. Give me just a minute to get back to the office area back here. I'll give you an idea of something else to look for to determine if your fan is a 1908 or not. Here's a small collection of GE fans starting with a 1900 here. This is an 01, 1902. 1903 was the only year that they had a full ribbed base. See, in 1902 they just had an edge flute and it was smooth up in this area. 1903 is also when they started putting the switch down in the base, so they had to make the bases taller to accommodate this coil for the 5 speeds up inside the base and the rotary switch knob down here instead of being on the back of the motor, as in the case with these earlier fans. So there's 03, here's a 1904. 05 is the same in that it has a stem flute and the edge is smooth. Just the opposite of these back here. Then we get into 06, which by 1906 all the fluting is gone from the base, and from here on out all the bases are smooth. But these are the pancake design. See how thin the motor is? The motor's very thin, but it's a large diameter, hence the name pancake. So we get on down here, that's a 1907. Here's a 1908 here. And if you'll notice, it's also the first year that they move away from the windmill style blades, or what we call pizza slice blades. 1908 was the first year to have this typical GE, I say typical from here on out, this style blade here. And the 1908, if you'll notice, only has 2 rivets in the blade. Beginning in 1909 and later, you'll see 3 rivets on the blades. 3 rivets on the blades. This is a 1909 model here. Flat struts, no rib. 1910, you'll see that the strut has a rib down through there for extra added rigidity. But one of the telltale signs of a 1908 will be there's only 2 rivets in the blade. It'll have an internal centrifugal start switch. And also, these struts mount to the face of the motor as opposed to the following year in 1909. You'll see that the strut is bent and it's mounted to the OD of the motor. That's 1909. Here's a 1910. You'll see this bend in the strut here gives the strut a lot more rigidity, and this cage is a lot more rigid here. It doesn't move very much. If you'll notice this design right here, it allows the cage to have a little bit of a wobble to it there. And this may be a little excess. I probably need to tighten that up a little bit, but this was one of the reasons they went to that bent strut over there. So there's your 1908, all complete and original. And I'll go ahead and cut the video here and get back out on the shop floor and start making the bearings to go in this old 1908 motor that I just showed you on the bench out there. All right, that's it for today, y'all. Y'all take care. Hope you enjoyed the video.